Hello friends, so in this video let us talk about the first three problems from the latest LeetCode bi-weekly contest 67. So let's start. The first problem is find subsequence of length k with the largest sum. So the problem goes like this, that you are given an integer array nums and an integer k. Now you want to find out a subsequence of nums of length k that has the largest sum. So subsequence means that you can't, like in an array you can derive one more array such that you have to delete out or no delete out some elements. So if you are given this nums, you have to find out a subsequence of length k that has the largest sum. So if you take 3 and 3, then that can be a possible sum. So it subsequence is just like you can take some elements out of this nums array so that a new array is formed, but the sequence of elements that you have extracted out should be same. Okay, that's the whole problem. Let us see that if you have an array like this 2 3 5 3 7, now you can extract out elements like this 3 5 3, but the order should be same. Now the problem goes like this, that you have to take out elements such that its length should be equal to k that is given to you, and the sum should be as large as possible. Now for getting the largest sum, it obviously means that you have to extract out the k largest element. But how can you extract out the k largest element? For that you have to sort it out, but if you sort it out you will lose track of the which element come first and which element come next. You have to extract out in subsequence form. So what is better? Before sorting them out, you have to map these numbers, or you can pair them out, numbers with their indexes, so that we have we do not lose track of which number is at which index. So you can first make a vector of vectors, or a vector of pairs, so that the first number is the number itself and the second number is the index, like this. And you have to map them out, and then you have to sort them out. So it will sort like this. So 7 5 3 3 2, indexes will be like this. 4, fifth index is 2, third number is let's say 1, then 3, then 0. So these are the indexes as well as the number. Now let's say you have to find out the first two largest number, so you will take the first two largest number, and after extracting out you have to print them by, now you have to again sort them by the indexes. So the first index is actually 2 and then 5, so it will be like this, 5 and 7, and then that's the answer. So as you can see, if you take out 5 and 7, this is a subsequence. As you can see, I just take out them, the order should be remaining same, that is 5 and 7, and that is the given out the maximum sum of length equal to k equal to 2. Fine. So that's the whole logic for this. I'll go to the code, so it will become more clear. We have first make a vector of pairs, so that I'm mapping the number with the index and then sorting them out. After sorting them out, I will extract out the first k elements, but now I have to in the end again sort them by the indexes. So I will take out the first k elements, but now the first element should be an index and a second number in the number itself, and then again sort them by the index. Okay, and then when the index of them are sorted, we have to extract out the k numbers by the sorted positions and print out these numbers and just print out the answer. That's the whole solution, nothing much complicated. We're doing two sorting, and the first one is to actually sort them by finding out which is the largest k numbers, and the second one is because after sorting, due to sorting, their relative order should be different, changed, so that we have to again sort them by the index that we have mapped originally, and then we can print out the answer. Fine, let's go to the next problem. The next problem is find good days to rob the bank. So the problem goes like this, that you have a gang of thieves that are planning on robbing a bank. Fine, so you are given a 0 indexed integer array security, where security of I is the number of guards on duty on the ith day. So fine, so you're given that, okay, on the ith day that much of guards are there, that is given you in the security array. The days are numbered from 0. Okay, you're also given an integer time, so you're given all of these information, time variable, time something, and a security that is at a particular game of time, how many securities are there. Fine, the ith day is a good day to rob the bank if the following conditions are met. The condition is if there are at least t times before and after the ith day. So I can only rob a bank if it has t time number of days before that. So it should be having 2 days before and 2 days after, they should be available. So it means that I cannot rob it for the first bank or second bank, because from the third bank I can start robbing out, because it should be having 2 days before that and 2 days after that. The number can be anything, but it should be having that much of numbers. the number of guards at the bank for the time, like time days before I are non-increasing. So let's say I have 2 because I want 2 days. Now let's say for this example, it means that 2 days before a number and 2 days after the number. For the 2 days before, it should be non-increasing, and 2 days after it should be non-decreasing. If all the 3 conditions are met, then as you can see that it is also written like this here. So it means that the number are decreasing or like same before the robbery, and it should be like same or increasing after the robbery. If all of those conditions are met, then only you can tell that it's a good day of robbery, and then you have to print out all the days that are good to be robbery. So you have to first go through the problem statement. That is, I think so, moreover clear. Return and then go over some of the examples to make it more clear. So as you can see for this, we have to print out the indexes that are fine so that we can like do the robbery at this point of time. So just a second. Yeah. So the first day is fine. That is the second index day, 0, 1, 2. So this number, that is 3. That is good for robbery. How you can find out? Because it should be having 2 days before that are available, 2 days after that are available, and the 2 days before them should be like non-decreasing, non-increasing, sorry, which means that they should be constant or like they should be decreasing. So 5 and 3 decreasing, and 2 days after that should be increasing. So as you can say 3 and 5. So this is fine. For the next number, if you take the next, and that is the third number, that this is this. 2 days after that are increasing, and 2 days before them are like non-increasing. So that is fine. So yeah, as you can see that these 2 indexes are fine, so you have to print them out. So how can you do that? Like my first target is ki I have to first see ki there should be at least 2 days before that and 2 days after that. How can I check that? It is relatively simple. If I know the index I am on, okay, then I can easily check that how many days, like how many number of days are available before that and how many number of days are available after that, because I know the total length. Okay, so let's say I have some numbers. So let's take the similar example: 5, 3, 3, 5, 3, 3, and then again 3, 5. So 3, 5, and then 6, 2, 6, 2. Fine. So if let's say I'm on this index and the index is 0, 1, 2. So I know the total length is equal to, let's say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So total length is 7. So I know how many numbers are after this 2 index and how many numbers are there before this index. So it is 2, which means that there are 2 numbers before that, and it is like 7 minus 2, that is equal to 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minus 1. So like you just have to take that. The index is you are an I. So n minus I minus 1 is the number of numbers after you, and I numbers are before you. So yeah, you just have to check that both of these numbers should be like greater than equal to time, because that number of numbers should be present. The first thing is that is done. Now I just have to check that the numbers before them should be, as you can see, that there should be should be decreasing, like non-increasing. Okay, that's my whole thing. So you can just make a vector and store out the non-increasing from left to right, and similarly you have to find out a non-decreasing non-decreasing from left, like right to left. Okay, just find out the frequency for that. That's it, nothing much different. So let's say if I have the same example, the first number is fine. So the first number I cannot decide, so it is 1. From 2, it means that it is decreasing, and I want decreasing numbers only, so it is fine. So you just have to take this number compared with the previous number. If they are same or decreasing, then you can take the previous number incremented by 1. So I can take it 3. This is also fine. So 4. This is 5, which means that from this number, like from 3 to 5, it is increasing. So now, which means that the streak that is going like 1, 2, 3, 4, the streak has cancelled out. So after the streak got cancelled, you have to start from 1 again. So you will take it 1. Then from 5 to 6, it is again increasing, not decreasing. So again 1. If it is only decreasing or same, then only take the previous number plus 1. If not, you will just take and start it with 1 again. From 6 to 2, it is decreasing now. So previous number plus 1, that is 2. Fine. So this is the streak from left to right, like whether it is non-decreasing or not, like non-increasing, sorry. Similarly, now we'll go from like right to left. So the first number is 2. So we'll take it the first number as it is, 1 only. Now it is increasing, as you can say. So increasing, which means that it is 2. Then it is it has just stopped out. So now it is decreasing. So again make it 1. So now as you can see, like it is again it is decreasing. So decreasing means that is again equal to, So I actually want that it is equal to, yeah, so I actually want decreasing number, so that if it is decreasing from right to left, it is actually increasing now. So it is decreasing, so it is actually equal to, this is decreasing, so it's actually equal to 1 only. This is decreasing, so it is 2, decreasing, so 3, equal 4, equal 4, and actually increasing, so 1. So I just find out decreasing numbers from both the ends, and now I actually have the frequency. So what I'll now do for every number, check that whether it has more than 2 numbers on the left and right. And also for this index, I just check that how many numbers before that are increasing. Like it means that before that number, there are 3 numbers that are like in a continuous tree. Similarly from right, left also, there are 4 numbers that are continuously like increasing. So that is fine. I just want 2 numbers. If that is there, then print out yes, this is the correct data row, or else not. That's the whole logic for this problem. Let's go down to the solution part. What I've done here is that A and B are actually finding out the like this prefix on suffix, like continuous, increasing, non-increasing, or not decreasing from left to right. So this is from left to right. The first number is 1 only because we are already taking that. For the first number, we don't know whether it is increasing or decreasing. Always take that. From the second number, actually, I will start. And if the next number is greater than the previous number, we'll increment it by 1, or else we'll start it by 1. Similarly, we'll start from back to front and we'll do the same thing. Answer is actually finding out the answer, like what all index we have to take. Then we'll iterate over every actual index and check that whether the number of left and right elements are present or not, like how many streaks are there. Okay, then what we'll check here is the left number of elements should be greater than equal to time. Also right should be greater than equal to time, so that both the sides we have numbers. And what you have to check here is let's say a of I is the streak that is on the left side. So the streak on the left side should be greater than equal to time. As well on the right side, it should be greater than equal to time. That's it. We have to just check that. Which means that if we should have at least 2 elements that are increasing on the left side, decreasing towards that point from the left side and increasing from that point to the right side. So, and they should be at least like equal to the length, like number of times equal to time. And if that is fine, then we push out the index, or else we'll not, and print out all the indexes. Nothing much complicated. You'll easily understand that. Okay, next moved on to the last problem. Detonate the maximum bomb. So the problem statement goes like this, that you are given actually some bombs, and the bombs has these properties, that is xi, yi, and r. Xi and y are actually the coordinates at which the bombs are placed, and when they are like blasted out, they will actually affect a area of radius r. So as you can see, now what the problem statement says, that if a particular bomb is blasted, then if it intersects with any other bomb blasting area. So let's say that if I bomb, like this bomb has this area of affection, okay, and this bomb has this area of affection. If any bomb that is blasted affects or comes, like its like blast rays comes in the another bomb blast rays area, then that another, like this bomb particularly, will also trigger the next bomb. Okay, so that's the whole like the problem statement. So if I somehow like blasted this bomb rays will propagate, and it will like cover up, like this bomb is not blasted in the start, only this bomb is blasted, but because the radius of this bomb is like this only, it will propagate in this radius, and it will trigger out this bomb, and this bomb will also blast. And if there are any other bomb that are like intersecting with this particular bomb, then all the other bombs will also get triggered out. So you may choose to detonate any single bomb. You will have to start with any single bomb. When a bomb is detonated, it will detonate all the bombs that lie in its range, and those bombs will actually further detonate the bombs that lie in their range. So it will like a DFS, like it travels out. That means that you have to do some DFS. Now we have to check it for everyone. So for checking for everyone and checking that how deep I can go in the DFS. So it's like an O of n approach, O of n square. But you have to check that n should be small enough to do that. And yeah, bomb length is very 100, like 100. So we can use n square approach. So which means that we can directly just do like DFS for every starting point. Like for a particular bomb, we'll take that, we'll blast out this bomb, and then we'll start a DFS from that particular point of time. What we'll do, it's not too difficult. We have a grid of bombs. How we can check that whether a bomb is detonating any other bomb? That is just the whole problem. So let's say we have a bomb at this particular grid. It is actually like it can actually detonate that area, and let's say there is one more bomb that is detonating this much area, and there is one more bomb like this that is detonating this area. Okay, so let's take one bomb like this. Okay, one bomb like this, and the other area is like this. Now as you can see, like we'll start taking every bomb, like let's say we'll start taking this bomb, and we'll check that like whatever bomb it will intersect, like it will like blast it out. So it will blast never no other bomb. So how many total number of bombs it will blast? Only one. Okay, so let's say like if I like take now this bomb. Okay, so if I blast this bomb, one bomb will be blasted out, and we'll check that how many bombs it will intersect. So it will intersect one more bomb, so that bomb will also get blasted out. So this bomb will also get blasted out. Now I will check that is there any other like bomb that is like intersecting with this. So let's say that one more bomb is there, like this, and that is intersecting with this bomb only. So we first trigger this bomb, this will trigger this bomb, this will trigger this bomb. Fine. So that is how like a chain reaction or DFS type of thing, and then this will also get like blasted off. So how we can check that? We have to first take a visited bomb map or something like that. That will actually state ki which bomb has already blasted and which bomb we have to blast. So that we have to do a DFS. But for DFS, we have to also make a visited thing, like how many bombs are visited. So you have to like refresh it with every new iteration, and that's what we have to do. The main thing is like how we can check that one bomb is intersecting with another bomb. So it's like intersecting of two circles. How we can check that two circles are intersecting? That's the whole problem. So if I have two circles, we are given the xy coordinate and r, like the radius length, and again x2, y2 and r2. Okay, and the radius r. So r1 and r2. So what you'll do here is ki if you find out the straight line distance between x1 and y1, like that's the straight line distance between the two coordinates, that is x1 and y1. Okay, and so this turns out to be, let's say, d. So if d is less than r1 plus r2, r1 and r2 is the diagonal distance between the two circles. So let's say that circles are just touching out. If the circles are just touching out, and this is the radius r1, this is the radius r2, and this is the diagonal distance between them, this is d. So if they're just touching, d is equal to r1 plus r2. If they are not touching, they are very distance apart. So this is r1, this is r2, and this is d. If they're not touching out, then d will be greater than r1 plus r2. And if they are like intersecting, then d will be less than r1 plus r2. So we just want that they should be like touching out. So for touching out, d should be less than equal to r1 plus r2. That we have to just check. Now the d is the distance between them. So d actually means the distance between like the two coordinates. So distance between two coordinates is like x1 minus x2 whole square plus y1 minus y2 whole square. Okay, under root of that. That is the distance between them. And that should be the distance between, that is r1 plus r2. Now you can also like find out this, and like that will be like double, like it will be like you have to store it out in some decimal form. Instead of that, what you'll do, you'll square out both sides. So what you'll observe is like x1 minus x2 whole square plus y1 minus y2 whole square is equal to r1 plus r2 whole square. So that's the distance between them. That is the d square, and this is like the r1 plus r2 whole square. So this is actually similar. So if we have to check that r1 d should be less than r1 plus r2, just square both sides. So that's what we are checking here only. If d square is less than equal to r1 plus r2 whole square, then only we have to just print out ki our answer is correct. That like what we'll check is that our answer is correct, and then d2 is smaller, so they are intersecting. That's the whole logic behind this problem, nothing else. So I'll straight down to the directly what the solution part is. So the start point is this. We are doing starting from every bomb. We'll take that mem set are visited. That is visited means like how many bombs are like or already like detonated, so we have to like restart it from every point which I've already told you. Then we'll find out the maximum of answer, comma, find out the bombs when we start detonating our bombs from the ith index. Like we'll like bomb out the ith index bomb and just return out the answer, like what is whatever the maximum. Now how this find function is for like bomb is finding out the answer, we'll first visit out, like because we are starting from the ith index, we'll first mark it as 1 because we are like blasting this out. Answer will be 1, which means that because that bomb is for like blasted out, so one bomb is already there. Now we'll find out, we have 3 indexes, like 3 points, x, y and r. Okay, so I will already told you that r square is actually a distance between these, like what you can say, like r square is a distance between these, like r square. Okay, so what you can see here is ki, we have to find out actually a distance between these two like circles, like the bombs. So what you'll do here is ki, like you'll actually add them out, x1 minus x2, like find out distance. If this distance square is less than r square, then just increment the answer. And like because it is incremented in our answer, what we'll do, we'll go from this point to the next point. My next point, I means that because our like this bomb is detonating another bomb, so we'll start our new DFS from this particular bomb. So which means that we have diffused this bomb. Let's go to the next bomb. So that is the whole logic part, nothing much different. Like it is actually passed out all the test cases. So yeah, so we'll start from one bomb and we'll go to the next bomb and next bomb. So like the DFS function only. So when we have detonated one bomb, we'll go and like, so let's say we have detonated the first bomb, it actually triggered the third bomb. So from third bomb, we'll again call this function again with third bomb now, and so on. So that in the end we have all the answers, like how many bombs are like detonated. So that's the whole logic and solution for this part. I hope you understand all the logics, all the like solutions. All the links of all the solutions will be in the description of this video. Thank you for watching this video till the end. I will see you next one, and keep coding, and bye.